were made during that summit. But I just want to start with the fact that they committed to provide 1 billion COVID vaccines to poor nations. This has been described as a drop in the ocean. Do you think it will suffice? Are they still hogging the vaccines?
I think it's a drop in the ocean. 11 billion doses will be required to reach herd immunity. So with that kind of expectation that we need 11 billion to reach herd immunity, and with the level of vaccination that has happened in the rich countries, you'd expect a lot more to happen, from the G7 countries. These are the richest countries on earth. So when they come in and they are kind of moving on and say, okay, we'll give you 1 billion doses, these are not just doses that are immediately available. And that is the biggest point. They are saying 1 billion doses in the next 12 months, as if the coronavirus will wait and just wait for the vaccines to come in, right? That is the biggest challenge. It is not ambitious enough. It is not fast enough. We're hoping that 1 billion doses by the end of this year, for instance, would have been something of a good start. But 1 billion doses that they are committing, like the 500 million from the US and 100 million from the UK, this is in the next 12 months. This is going to span a year. So by this time next year, that is when you get 1 billion doses. And that is just unbelievable, actually.
All right. Apart from even the vaccines, what about substantial financing gaps for tests? What about treatments, critical supplies like oxygen and other health systems? Was this talked about anywhere?
That is the reason why we say we didn't see a right plan. We didn't see a costed plan. So when you come in and talk with all of make the promises of vaccine doses, that is not the only component that is needed to end the pandemic. The problem here is connecting their words and their action. They have said they were going to do everything to end the pandemic. So they want to end the pandemic in 2024. That is the first question. Now, in terms of other things, they are part of COVAX, right? So they've made some commitment before. No new commitment was made. That is the problem. No new additional funding was made. So people were making commitment based on what they've already contributed and the vaccines they are going to make, they're going to donate to COVAX in the next 1 year. So this is the challenge. They have not talked about the detail, the plan that is needed to end this pandemic simply did not come from that G7 summit.
All right. Apart from even COVID-19, they equally talked about climate change, and they agreed to step up action on climate change and renewed a pledge to raise $100 billion a year to help poor countries cut emission. Big question out of this is, will they deliver in full once again?
That is, honestly, it is just very laughable because this commitment was made, in the previous COP. They've made this commitment of 100 billion financing to help poor countries adapt. There is not the money that has never been met. That commitment has never been delivered on. So that is one. So you come in and rehash the same thing. We are still hoping to see action. So the question here is, there is no action taken. There is no money that was put on the table. That is the whole point we're making here. So it just basically looks like you're rehashing the same things that you've said before. The biggest reason why this is very important is that the whole world was really looking up to them, because for the past 18 months, they've not seen themselves face to face. There has never been a face-to-face in-person meeting of the richest countries. We've seen some virtual meetings that have happened, so you can understand that they are dealing with so many things. But now this is the first time they're meeting face to face, and the whole world really had hopes on them. But unfortunately, it was quite disappointing that no action plan, no cash commitment was made to make this happen. It's just promises on paper, old promises that were being rehashed again. So that is the challenge we face here.
Do you think Africa gained anything from this summit?
We would say the 1 billion committed doses will be some paltry commitment, but that is like, in fact, it's laughable because it's like a drop in an ocean. So for instance, the COVAX was supposed to enable Africa to vaccinate up to 30% of its population. Right now, we haven't even hit 5%. All of these commitments that are coming in will not get us up to 17%, not even in this year. So basically, Africa has just simply been told, hey, guys, go and take care of yourself. We would help where we can. That's basically what this summit has been. So Africa basically needs to start thinking about itself, how to increase manufacturing of vaccines on the continent, how to get the financing that it needs to get, to begin to make the right investment in our health systems. Basically, Africa has to look for itself because the G7 is not coming to your assistance as expected.
All right, there's something that the UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson said, that countries must learn from their mistakes as they rebuild their economies after the pandemic. He further told them that it was vital not to repeat the mistake of the last great crisis, that it is the last great economic recession, that is in 2008, when the recovery was not uniform across all parts of society. That unifying, the growth across all parts of society. What exactly does Africa need to do, considering the gaps we have between poor and the rich is so wide?
See, that statement from Boris Johnson, it's quite. I would say so. Let me put it this way: they've said they put themselves to commit to raising up to $100 billion, to recycle $100 billion from the $650 billion that the IMF has been asked to issue for the SDRs, or the special drawing rights. So the rich countries who are going to be getting about $250 billion out of that are committing from that statement to make sure that at least $100 billion of that is recycled as loans to the poorer countries that need them most. Now, let me tell you this why this is so. It's not about within the countries. For instance, the rich countries have spent over $2 trillion to get their people back on their feet. African countries as a whole is struggling to get $50 billion to get their countries back on the foot. So look at the gaps. Now, it would take about $50 billion from the IMF, IMF calculation to vaccinate the whole world. They could not put that money on the ground. So you're talking of a recovery and learn from the lessons of 2008 financial crisis, whereas you're putting trillions in your economies, and then no dime has been used to help poorer countries. So basically, we will recover according to our strength, and that is where the differences are. So rich countries will continue to recover faster, and the poorer countries will continue to recover slowly. So this is the difference in the terms of learning from. But I don't think they've learned from the past yet. I don't think the urgency that is required now has been felt, and that is the biggest call that we've been making, to say, make this resources available as fast as possible. So if the IMF issues these SDRs, right, and the richer countries commit to recycle $100 billion of that to African economies, it should come as fast as possible, because African economies will not recover while the rich countries will recover very quickly. That is the reality that we face today.
Okay, so then the fact that South African President Cyril Ramaphosa was a guest there, and of course he continued urging the group of 7 countries to help finance the World Health Organization program, we're seeing Africa not really getting much. From your view, do you think that his presence there was significant?
It was, for me, it was good to have at least an African country coming to us, observers, as friends. I know that the Prime Minister Boris Johnson is very keen on getting what he called the D10, basically the top 10 democracies in the world. It's good to have an African country in that group. That is nice, and it's a nice to have. It's also good to have the religions and continue to interact and lobby as much as we can. But in terms of significance on the African continent, there is no significance of this. The summit has no significance on the African continent, unless, of course, speed, unless, of course, they begin to execute with speed the commitment of excess. By the way, listen, the African countries, the rich countries had 2.7 excess doses that they've already acquired. That is if they vaccinate all of their populations. And here is an